We are live.
We are online. Okay. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Welcome all to our weekly webinar. This is the second week that we are focusing on the afterlife, the hereafter. And inshallah, this week, Brother Colin will be with us again, and Brother Samettin from United Kingdom. We will be focusing on the second, again, our discussion will be the way of muzakara on the texts that we pick from the collection of Risale-i-Nur, tafsir, contemporary tafsir of the Quran Hakim. This week we are focusing on another name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Al-Hakim, all just and all wise, and Al-Adl, all just. So as many of the brother attendees will remember, previous weeks we went over the asbab, the causes, and how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is dominant and in charge and the only agent over everything in the universe. Now in the second part, we are focusing on this hereafter concept, which is like the second major topic in the Quran. As we know, one is Tawheed, and the second one is Amantu billah wa bil yawmil akhir, the faith, our faith, our iman in the afterlife. Even though we are Muslims, we believe in this. This is a major part of our faith. Again, the Quran Hakim, the all-wise Quran, is offering this to us almost in every page. Said Nursi defines it as 1/4 of Quran is talking about the afterlife. Wherever we look at, what part of the Quran we look at, either is talking about death or coming back to life after death, or the life in the grave, or the judgment day, the doomsday, or the paradise or hell. So if you think about our day-to-day life, let's say we will have a couple of meetings this week. We make a lot of plans, and then if we want to go for a trip 6 months later or in a year, again, we most of the time make plans accordingly, but as we all know, the definite plan that we need to make about our future is on the afterlife, because if we ask to ourselves, we have dreams, we have plans, we have a lot of thoughts about our future, but what is definite about our future is only the reality of that. So this life is finite, and is there anything coming after this? And most of the time we ignore it. We don't have that much preparation as we did for our day-to-day operations. So it might be showing us that we are not that sure, as we are sure that the spring is coming after the winter. Maybe we are not that sure about the coming of the afterlife. And the second thing that I want to underline before starting, when we talk about afterlife, most of the time we are talking about the consequences. So maybe, yes. So most of the time we are talking about, if we do this, second thing we are waiting for, in the afterlife we will face these consequences. If you do this, we will be rewarded accordingly, or we don't do this, we will be punished accordingly, or the benefits of the afterlife for our worldly life, the belief in the afterlife for our worldly life. But if we focus on these thoughts most of the time, are we really have the conviction, the yaqeen, that are we sure that like the spring is coming after winter? Are we sure that a second life is coming after this one? So this is a journey, I believe, because as we have, there is no end to know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because his existence is absolute. Even though we believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this will be an unending journey that will go until the end of our lives. We will just continue, inshallah, to know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the afterlife. The akhirah concept, the afterlife concept, is kind of similar, because the things that we can observe, we can see in this life is finite, but now we're trying to conclude about an eternal and infinite afterlife from the things that we see, we observe in this life. So Said Nursi follows a method that is from Quran in this particular chapter. As we know, for example, in a verse towards the end of the Surah Yasin, people come and ask Prophet ﷺ, "Man yuhil idama," who will give life to these decayed bones? And the answer in the Quran is, the one who gives them life the first time will be the one who will resurrect them. So we're trying to observe the realities that we witness in this life, so that we can be sure about afterlife. And it's definitely a legitimate way of questioning this part of our faith, as we have an example in the story of Ibrahim alayhi salam. He's asking some evidence to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How do you resurrect? How do you bring back to life the dead beings? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asks him, "Oh Ibrahim, don't you have belief in this?" He says, "Yes, I do, but I need some, confidence, peace in my heart." So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shows him some evidences. Inshallah, I want to start with the first part of the reading, and I will give the word to the speakers, inshallah. Is it at all possible that the Lord of glory, who demonstrates his dominical sovereignty in the wisdom and order, the justice and equilibrium that pervade all things from the atom to the sun, should not bestow favor on those believers who seek refuge beneath the protective wing of his dominicality, who believe in his wisdom and justice, and whose acts are for the purpose of worshiping? So this is our introduction sentence, or our claim that we will try to understand. So we are talking about the justice, we are talking about wisdom. So if this meaning is dominant in the universe, if we can see this, if we have a strong faith in this, this should be our conclusion. So this is the meaning that's inculcated, put into the nature of human being. Our logic, our conscience will immediately confirm this reality. If there is an apparent justice and wisdom in the universe, it immediately proves that this will prevail, this will continue to the eternity. Again, is it possible that he should not chastise those rude and discourteous men who disbelieve in his wisdom and justice and rebel against him in insolence? Now, not even 1,000th part of that wisdom and justice exercised with respect to men. In this transient world, it is rather deferred. Most of the people of misguidance leave this world unpunished, and most of the people of guidance leave it unrewarded. All things are then postponed for a supreme tribunal and ultimate bliss. So this is our claim sentence. Before going to the wisdom part, I want to ask brothers if they want to say a few words on this part. Step in, Brother Colin or Samettin.
Assalamu alaikum.
Well,
Well, Stud talks about dominical sovereignty, from which I think we understand the way that he nurtures, the way that he sustains all of the creation. This is established everywhere, he says, through the wisdom, the order, the justice, and the equilibrium. And he says that these are qualities that pervade everything. You see them everywhere. And I was reminded of this. I was watching a nature program on television about termites in Africa. Do you know what termites are? I think the Turkish is beyaz karınca. It's a kind of ant.
Mm-hmm.
And these termites, they build amazing structures, really tall towers with lots of chambers and lots of rooms, and they're very, very intricate and very artistically created, very artistically designed. These termites, they really are the architects and the builders of the insect world. And inside each tower, there is a whole colony of termites, with the queen termite and all the worker termites. And they have a social structure which is beautifully regulated and designed. Clearly, there are signs of design there. Until the predators come, until other animals come, such as the anteater. The anteater is an animal with a very, very long nose and a very, very long tongue. And it's able to use that tongue to hunt the termites. It also has very, very tough claws. So this beautiful termite colony built inside this tall mud structure can be reduced to just a pile of mud within seconds by these predators. And this appears on the surface to be wholly destructive. You know, it appears to be an act of willful destruction, but actually when you consider what is happening, you see it's part of the order and equilibrium. And why I'm using this example is that we are often told that, oh, we can't see justice in the natural world, and in the world of animals. We can't see justice in the natural world. It is all violence and bloodshed and destruction and attack and hostility. But when you see an anteater destroying a termite colony, there is a reason for this. It's part of the order and the equilibrium. And the reason for this particular phenomenon is the vast rate at which termites multiply. They procreate prolifically, and their numbers rise exponentially from one day to the next. And if their population isn't checked and regulated, by outside forces, and I'm thinking of the predators here, their numbers, the numbers of termites would rise so dramatically that within 2 or 3 weeks, the whole of Africa would be knee deep in termites. Termites would take over the whole continent. And so predators are necessary. And these things which appear to be acts of willful violence, they are needed. They are needed if the termite population is to be kept at a tenable level. So the animals which function as predators are there to keep other animal populations in check. And this includes human populations as well, because we are also subject to the same kind of checks and balances. And I thought about this, and I thought of justice, because justice means putting things in their rightful place. And justice is very clearly manifested in this world, but not in the absolute sense. It's evident in this world, it's relative and it's piecemeal. We don't get absolute justice in this world. And for many reasons, absolute justice is something that can only be found in a world where there is no temporal limitation. And that means the world to come. So in the world to come, the divine names will be manifested in a manner which suits their absoluteness. Whereas in this world, their absoluteness is only indicated, it's just hinted at. And as Ustad himself says, and I have a quote here somewhere, Ustad says, now not even 1,000th part of that wisdom and justice is exercised with respect to man in this transient world. It is rather deferred. Most of the people of misguidance leave this world unpunished, and most of the people of guidance leave it unrewarded. All things are postponed for a supreme tribunal and ultimate bliss. So my point is, and I'll finish here, we know that the creator who nurtures and sustains something as seemingly insignificant as a termite, and who gives the termite what it needs, and who treats the termite with justice, you know, whether it is in the giving of sustenance or whether it is in the termite being part of that transaction between predator and prey, the drama of earthly existence, if you wish, we know that if God answers the prayers of the termites, is it at all possible that he would ignore our prayers? And our prayers are for justice. Our prayers are for absolute justice. So if God tends to the termite with such a wonderful display of justice, is it at all possible that he would ignore our pleas for justice?
Thank you, Colin. Samettin, Brother Samettin,
Yeah.
would you like
At this
to step
point,
in, say a few words?
yeah, at this point, actually, Brother Colin Marshall expressed very well. But what comes to my mind is in the whole 10th word, this treatise on Hashir, resurrection, Ustad uses a kind of method in these truths, realities. And this is, how I actually see it. I don't know, maybe other brothers find differently, but this is how I actually experience it. So Ustad actually puts first the statement, which is the claim statement, as you mentioned. He actually claims that is it possible that the God of glory, who demonstrates himself this and that, and he uses different names, and then at the end he actually ties the topic with the resurrection. Is it possible this kind of a person, this kind of a being, this kind of an existence allow this to happen or doesn't allow this to happen? And then he starts saying that in this world, which is transient, and at the same time, two aspects of this transient world. The one aspect is the required conditions with the name that started with are not fully experienced by the mankind. So the mankind are not really experiencing fully in its own capacity the all beauty or the all potential of the name in this world. And then it starts saying that, but again, the world is yet a witness of an infinite owner of those names. Just to put it in a better way, the owner of those names has these names in infinitely. So the world itself also a witness. In one side, it's incapable of reflecting men's full, full blow or full. In this case, for example, we are talking about justice. The world isn't enough for men's, receiving the justice in absolute sense. But again, the world is also showing us that the absolute justice exists and infinitely, and but we may not actually see or experience in humankind, but it exists, and there are actually witnesses within this world for the resource, for the source of this absolute justice. And then when our minds are actually understand that there's a resource of infinite justice, and then at the end, when Ustad comes to the conclusion, when he says, so how come an infinite justice allows this to happen while he doesn't allow in the world for other beings? Ustad also compares human being and the other beings throughout the explanations. So until here, I didn't add much, but the way I see is we are now at the moment seeing that the world itself, as Brother Colin also mentioned, isn't the place of manifestation of absolute manifestation of the names here, like we are talking about Isma Hakim and Isma Adil. But we will see in the coming paragraphs, inshallah, then how all these names, especially these two names, are manifested in the world, so that we can understand the owner of these names is infinite, and these names has an infinite nature themselves. This is what I would like to say. Sorry if I make it longer.
Can I come in there, because Hossamuddin's exposition was really interesting, and it actually caught my eye, or my ear rather, and it made me want to ask a question. And that you said that the world is witness, that there is one who is just. I was thinking that in order for us to know what justice is, we don't just need the manifestation of justice, but we also need an absence of justice, or an apparent absence of justice. So when people say, well, there is no justice in this world, or there is lots of injustice in this world, then my question is, well, isn't that to be expected? Because in order to know what justice is, we also have to know what injustice is. So, we may say that, okay, that Allah's not unjust, and that the injustice that we see in this world is only apparent injustice. But the fact is, we still have to see those things which appear to us as unjust. Otherwise, we wouldn't know what justice is. What would you say to that, Hossamuddin?
Yeah, definitely. What I would say is, especially on this point, I think this is very important to discern at this moment, how I understand. We actually see and experience in the world different layers. For example, the life of mankind is one layer. The life of animals and the plants are another layer. And let's say the systems working in our body and the animate beings in another layer. So if we see things in different layers, in different stratums, maybe we can differentiate the rules work in their
Mhm.
in different. For example, in our own, let's say, human life structure or human life level, we see that there's injustice.
Mm.
This is apparent. In also the life of the animals, we also think that there's injustice.
Yeah, yeah.
But on the other hand, in the coming paragraphs, this is actually how I understand, but it's not my own, conclusion. Still, I'm ongoing of thinking. But on the other layer, which is, let's say, the works without human or animal will or volition, then there is an absolute justice which
Mm.
can be found.
Yeah,
This is
yeah,
how I see.
yeah.
It will actually start saying that different modes of justice can be found in the universe.
So
And
different levels and different layers of justice.
yes,
Yeah.
in one of those layers, when we witness that there's the feeling or there's the traces of an absolute justice,
Uh-huh.
then when we can come back and say, if although there is not the justice isn't fully seen in another layer,
It's
that
only
doesn't mean
apparent.
that
Mhm.
yeah
Mhm.
that doesn't mean that it isn't there. It may not be obvious for us, but it is there,
Right. Right.
or it will be manifested in another place. We
So
can
the
come, yeah.
indication of absolute existence then gives us the certainty that the apparent injustice is really only an appearance.
Yes.
And that actually that apparent injustice, like the destruction of the termite colony, it's only on the surface. You feel sorry because they've taken so much trouble to build this huge structure, and then the anteater comes along and tears it down, and you think that that's unjust, but it's not. It's only the appearance of injustice, because if it didn't tear down the colony, the termites would overrun the whole continent, and that would be true injustice. So you're absolutely right. I mean, this idea of levels is very important, I think.
And the sentence that this was the last sentence that we read, I guess. It's talking about most of the people of misguidance leave this world unpunished, and most of the people of guidance leave it unrewarded. All things are then postponed for a supreme tribunal and ultimate bliss. So maybe that level justice, if it has a continuation, it could be also can be seen as postponed. So in the example that we are talking about, for example, is the right of that ants, their aim of existence, their come into the world for a very short period of time, is that the ultimate right that they have, the only right that they have, or there is something else behind it that we need to see? Are they coming for just that purpose, that short period of time, to live their lives and go, or there was another aim behind it? Are they coming with a purpose that's related to the rest of the life, rest of the universe,
Mhm.
rest of the existence? So that might maybe help us also to understand the level of justice, how they are treated in that way, as respect.
Yeah, absolutely.
I want to go on to the second part. Yes, it is apparent that the being who controls this world does so in accordance with an infinite wisdom. Do you require a proof? So this is our journey. We are trying to see this wisdom in the universe. so we can conclude accordingly. Is everything with wisdom, and can we see this rich wisdom out there? It is the preservation of interest and benefit in all things. Do you not see that numerous wise benefits are intended in all the limbs, bones, and veins of man, even in the cells of brain and in every particle of his body? Do you not see that from certain limbs, wise benefits are to be had as numerous as the fruits of a tree? All of this shows that matters are done in accordance with infinite wisdom. The existence of the utmost regularity in the making of all things is a proof of the same truth. The comparison of the exact program of development of a beautiful flower into a minute seed, the inscription on a small seed by the pen of destiny of the scroll of deeds of a tree, its life history and list of equipment show that a pen of utmost wisdom is at work. So before going to another evidence, does any of the Colleen or Hüsamettin, do you want to step in, say a few words about the wisdom in the universe, or I can continue to
can you continue until the justice? Because this will be three examples for the wisdom, so we can think all three together if you want. This is my suggestion. I don't know, Brother Colin, if
no, that's fine. No, carry on.
The existence of a high degree of fine artistry in all things proves that there exists also the impress of an infinitely wise maker. Further, the inclusion within the minute body of man of an index of all being, of the keys to all the treasuries of mercy, and of the mirrors of all the divine names demonstrates the existence of wisdom within that infinitely fine artistry. Now, is it at all possible that the wisdom that thus permeates the workings of dominicality should not wish eternally to favor those who seek refuge beneath the wing of dominicality and who offer obedience in faith? So we talk about fine artistry, right? About the wisdom and
regularity and benefits.
Yep. When something is built, the many aims and purposes and benefits are followed, right? And the second one was everything is in order, made regularly. Regularity.
I want to ask a question at this moment, because this question will be related with the next name as well. To Brother Colin and Brother Baykar, what do you think about this question? Because we are dealing with a finite universe, finite creation. We are also finite. And how we come to the conclusion of an infinite owner of the creator, of the names which manifested in these finite beings, how we can come to that conclusion? How do you see that?
That's a huge question, really, because you're taking us back to proofs for the absoluteness of the names, aren't you, really?
Maybe briefly, if you can remind me. In this context, maybe
maybe if I can start off by talking about wisdom, and then maybe I can grasp my way through the arguments and try to answer the question if I can, but I may not be able to. I was reminded of wisdom by the issue of the postponement of the full manifestation, the absolute manifestation of wisdom in the next world. Wisdom is concerned, among other things, with reasons and rationales for everything. It's concerned with why the Creator does what he does. And in this sense, wisdom and justice are very, very closely created. Justice is about things being in their correct places, and wisdom is about why they are in those places and to what purpose. And therefore, wisdom is about justification, I think. We can discern the existence of wisdom from the fact that things are created purposefully and with an eye to purposiveness. Ustad talks about the numerous wise benefits, he says, that are intended in all the limbs, bones, and veins of man, even in the cells of his brain, and even in every particle of his body. And he talks of wise benefits as numerous as the fruits of a tree. Now, this shows that creation is permeated not just by justice, but also by wisdom. And the purpose that exists in one cell or in one atom is going to permeate all atoms and all cells, because the creator of one cell is the creator of all cells, because of the interdependence. Now, I'm not sure to what extent you want to get into the arguments about contingency and the arguments about unicity and unity. Do you want to go that far?
No, maybe actually it would be better if we stay within the sphere of this this treatise, and then when it comes to the point related, we can just touch.
Okay, then I think where it concerns justice and wisdom, which are very closely interconnected, if we can understand how closely interconnected they are, then we see that all matters, everything that exists, is done in accordance with divine wisdom, because everything has a purpose. Not one single thing can be found that doesn't have a purpose. Now, you find some atheists saying that there is no purpose in existence. And then you point out that every single thing in the creation has a purpose. Every single thing in the universe, there is nothing that doesn't have a purpose. And if you add that up and you say that every component part of the creation has a purpose, now the creation itself is a unit, is one unit. How can it be that every part of that unit has a purpose, but the whole unit doesn't have a purpose? It doesn't make sense. So if you can extrapolate from the fact that every single atom is placed in the creation in a way that's purposeful, you can extrapolate from that and you can say that the whole of the universe, as one effect, has purpose. I'm not sure whether that is answering the question.
Mashallah. So with our although our limited ability to experience and to perceive things, we can come to this conclusion that the benefits and the purposes permeates every single thing, or that the element from the smallest atoms to the building blocks to everything that we can experience, see, and even don't see.
I think so. Can you think of anything that doesn't have a purpose? I've tried, but I can't.
Oh, no. I never actually thought if there is anything without purpose, but if there is something without purpose, it would definitely cause a big trouble for the existence of life.
I think so. If there is motion, there is purpose, because motion means moving from A to B. Something wants to move from A to B in order to get something, to get some benefit, in order to carry out something for some purpose. So motion is an indication of purpose, because you're moving from less perfect to more perfect. If you're actually activating something, or you're actually obtaining something in moving from A to B, then that is a sign that there is a movement from not having to having. And if you're moving from not having to having, it shows that there is a purpose. It doesn't matter what the purpose is, it shows there's a purpose. And if there's a purpose, it means that someone has created it with a purpose. And that means if you extrapolate from that, if you look at the human desire for justice and the human desire for a resolution, then there must be a realm in which that desire is fulfilled, because that desire also has a purpose. Our desires have a purpose, and they wouldn't be created without something to gratify that purpose. I think we said last week, hunger exists because food exists, and food exists because hunger exists. So this conceptual and spiritual hunger for justice, there must be justice which will gratify and satisfy that desire. I don't think I probably answered your question, but I hope
I mean, there's no single question actually. It's good that we are trying to understand, mashallah. Yeah. And
this would be a nice step in to justice part. We didn't go in yet, but we also touched a little bit. I guess Brother Colin talked about our innate needs, our desires are finding an answer out there. So it's kind of our rights are considered and they are fulfilled. This is, I guess, a manifestation of justice in a way.
Definitely, not just in a way, definitely, because justice means things in their right place. Now, if you have a desire for justice and there is no justice to fulfill that desire, then that itself is unjust. If you give someone the desire for justice, but you don't provide the justice to fulfill that desire, then that itself is not just. And we don't see that in creation. Yeah. Sorry.
Go ahead.
No, you go.
I guess it's also very important that you brought up our feeling of justice. Since we are seeking the justice in the universe, first of all, we ourselves should understand it. And if we combine it with Brother Hüsamettin's question about infinity, I guess our feelings are a better manifestation of infinity, because there's kind of no limit to our feelings. It can, extend to eternity, or can at least feel it, imagine about it.
Yeah.
But within this material world, the manifested world, the world that we live in, even it's finite, it's limited, we are temporarily here, but it comes in such a way that we can almost conclude it's infinite or it's going to infinity. For example, we're talking about animal realm. There are millions of species, and if you want to count the numbers of members of one species, maybe the members of one species is more than all the human beings coming since Adam alayhi salam. And all their, again, as you said, purposes, aims within this material world is valid, is there. None of them we can say, oh, let's destroy this particular species or animal. They're all there for a purpose, and we can extend this to from particles, atoms, to the stars. We even though sometimes we are not able to see many purposes, but we find out a few. But in coming years, in coming search and studies, we find more and more wisdoms behind the all those beings. So all the sciences, all the explorations, all the studies of human being, even the feeling that is given us for exploration, the enthusiasm for studying all these things, these are all evidences of infinite wisdom out there. So we keep finding out, we keep studying, we keep exploring, and every day new one comes out. Ustad gives few examples here. For example, as far as I know, in today's medicine, just the liver of human being has more than 400 purposes in the body. It's doing 400 different functions in the human body. But for example, Ustad gives in the following truths, in the 10th truth, he mentions about our tongue, our languages. So it's a piece of flesh. It talks about all the food varieties of foods out there. It has the ability to taste any food from any region of the world. But it's not just that, but that piece of flesh in my mouth has the ability to articulate my feelings. So whatever I observed, whatever I studied, whatever I explored, whatever wisdom I find out, this piece of flesh has the ability to put it in words and to transfer it to the others, to articulate it. It's very interesting, whatever organ of ourselves we look at, or the animals or trees or lifeless particles or galaxies, as you said, beautifully put it, they have numberless, uncountable wisdoms behind it, and every day we keep finding out more and more.
Mashallah, yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, if you look at the tongue, it's just it's a muscle, it's a piece of flesh. And as you say, it can discern hundreds of thousands of different tastes, or it can, declaim the most beautiful poetry, or, recite the most wonderful revelation. It's amazing, to think of the purposes. And these are only the purposes that we think of. What about the purposes that we have no idea of? And so for someone to come out and say the creation has no purpose, the universe has no purpose, this is willful blindness. This is not inability to articulate the truth, it's unwillingness to articulate the truth. And that really is not forgivable.
And again, throughout this chapter, Sayyid Nursi talks about the purposes looking to the creator, the doer. So now we are just, I guess, talking about the purposes that is, apparent out there related to the functioning of the universe. Everything fulfills a duty here. Yeah. But what are they talking about? What the aim of their existence? Why they are here? Why they are functioning in certain ways? So
what are they reflecting, actually? Yes, we think in very I think we think in very instrumentalist terms. We think, what function are they carrying out? But actually, what are they saying to us? I often think, what does the color orange mean? Sometimes I ask friends, what does orange mean? And they say, what do you mean, what does orange mean? The color orange is there for a reason. There may be lots of instrumentalist explanations of how orange, it's a certain frequency on the light spectrum and it attracts certain animals, but also it's telling my emotions something. It has a purpose. There must be a reason, and I've no idea. And I'm sure that it's far more wonderful than I could ever imagine. You've mentioned all of these different purposes. They are the ones that we can understand with our limited with our limited abilities. I think the universe is a far more amazing place than we could ever imagine.
So this many Brother Samettin, you want to say?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, if I mean, sometimes I imagine if within our limited, time and ability, we experience this much wonder, and I wonder how it would be when there will be no limit, and when we can experience the whole of its existence of the universe and
Inshallah.
beyond, inshallah. I mean, even the thinking of this is very attractive.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah. Planning the journey is always half of the pleasure,
Exactly.
Thinking about the journey is half of the pleasure of the journey.
I would like to actually ask, or ask you, how do you actually find it, especially in this treatise, or I mean the 10th word, I mean the Hashir Risalesi. Ustad is actually teaching us lots of names of Allah and how to read them, and how to depend on them and build on, actually restructure and make infer new meanings for a very fundamental need of ourselves, which is the hereafter.
Yeah.
I mean, the teaching of, or the learning of the names itself, because when we are learning names here, the names manifested in the universe, we are actually in a sense learning that the owner of these names is infinite, is absolute. Even learning this, or trying to understand, or at least feeling this, is giving us the sense of hereafter. I mean, how a hereafter, could possibly happen, or how can we experience the hereafter?
Yes, absolutely. You're so right. The whole of the universe is here to teach us that there is a beyond. The mulk is created to show us that there is a malakut. The here and now is created to show us that there is a hereafter. So you're absolutely right. Allah is giving us a lesson, in instruction of the names. It's a masterclass of divine names, because we know that the universe is a gallery of names. So yeah, you're right. And also when you think of these names existing in their absolute form, as you said, and I think you said that some of the names you can actually understand that they are absolute, even if they're not always manifested here. You know that they exist absolutely. And you can extrapolate that, and you can see that even in those instances where a name doesn't appear to be that evident, you know that actually it is. And if it doesn't appear to be evident, it's because we also need the apparent opposite of that name. And that is also given us as part of the lesson. Yeah, you're making me now think differently about Hashir Risalesi, which for me before was one of the most difficult risales in the collection to conceptual, to internalize. But I think you've just given me the key now. It's a lesson in the names. It's a lesson in absolutizing the names. So that's really I took so much from that. So thank you.
Actually, I'm thankful to Brother Michael. He mentioned at the beginning, it actually struck my mind when he said that when we think about the hereafter, we mostly think about the consequences of our behaviors, so how we act and how we will be responded at the end.
Yes.
But in a sense, in this world, I mean, this treatise, I mean, this is how I see it, but this treatise is actually teaching us the infinite or the absolute, because when we think about the hereafter, when we actually talk about the infinite pleasure or the bliss or infinite punishment.
Hmm.
So how we can understand that, or how we can come to that understanding within our limited abilities?
I think it's only as you just suggested that if
Yeah,
we can conceptualize the absoluteness of Allah's names now, in the here and
exactly.
now, that gives us a kind of hereafter at the moment, now, right now. It gives us a glimpse into the hereafter, which is itself heavenly.
Exactly.
So it's not just about consequentialism. It's not just about, meeting the consequences of our own actions. The hereafter is not primarily about that. The hereafter is where you meet your maker, literally. You see your maker as your maker really is, to the extent, obviously, that it's possible. Then the veils will come off there, and they will continue to come off, as you progress through your whole eternity. But you're quite right, Husamuddin. This 10th word really is a lesson in the absoluteness of the names.
Alhamdulillah. And I would like to ask you a question. If the time is finished.
Yeah, we are towards the end. We can wrap
Okay.
up, inshallah, in a few minutes.
Okay then. Just
Go
the one piece that I would like to ask both of you, because I was really struggling to make sense of this part. The fine artistry, when the part about fine artistry, it says the existence of a high degree of fine artistry in the creation of all beings show that they are the arts of an infinitely wise maker. For example, the inclusion of the index of all beings, the keys to all the treasuries of mercy, and the mirrors of all the divine names within the minute body of men demonstrates the existence of wisdom within that infinitely fine artistry. So the men, these index of all beings, the keys to all the treasures of mercy, and the mirrors of all divine names, these can be, expanded, hours and hours long discussions. But briefly, Ustad actually, when he gave the example for a fine artistry, he chose men here, mankind, and he chose these three qualities for give an example for the fine artistry. Why do you think this is the case? Why these three? I mean, he could have gave different examples, but why these? I mean, is there anything that comes to your?
When you say these three, which three do you mean?
He says here the inclusion of the index of all beings. This is the first.
Right.
The second is the keys to all the treasuries of mercy.
Right.
And the third one is the mirrors of all the divine names within the minute body of men.
Maybe Brother Baikar would like to give his input.
We are out of time. I don't want to extend too long, but
maybe next week we start with this.
Yes, this will be a great point to start with. We can talk about what we understand when we say art. Maybe our understanding of art is also limited. We call some, as art, some as like industrial products. Maybe, for example, carpentry. Yes, we have a lot of products that we can use, but it is also artful, in a way. So all these concepts are I guess, part of art that we can observe in the universe. And let's make this a start point for the next week's discussion, and we will inshallah step into the name of al-adl, all just, inshallah. Also, thank you for your contributions for this week.
Thank
I want to
you.
close by a short prayer. If Brother Colin can maybe share with us.
سبحانك ما علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. I pray that we can grow in our understanding, inshallah. Allah is Rahman and Rahim. Grow in our understanding and realize that the world is a place of the infinite manifestation of the divine names, which requires a hereafter. And that I pray that we can live our lives in a way that does not lose sight of this fact, that we are here in order to prepare ourselves for eternity. Inshallah, if we can live with that idea in mind,
Inshallah.
inshallah.
Amen. Thank you so much.
Thank you.